The first time Karen called the cops, nobody thought it was strange. Oak Ridge Heights was the kind of place where lawns were measured like Olympic fields and trash cans had rules. Karen was the HOA president, self appointed queen of compliance, always in a white SUV, always with a clipboard, always smiling like she was doing you a favor while ruining your day. But this time was different. She didn't report noise or parking or pets. She reported the entire block. At 7:12 a.m., half the street woke up to police cars, city inspectors, and utility trucks lining the road. Karen had filed an anonymous complaint claiming Oak Ridge was running illegal rentals, unregistered businesses, and unsafe wiring. She told the town the neighborhood was a liability risk. The truth? None of it was real. But the damage was. People were late to work. One family had their power shut off temporarily. A single dad had his garage workshop sealed pending investigation. Neighbors stood outside in pajamas while officials took photos like it was a crime scene. Karen watched from her driveway, arms crossed, sipping coffee. When confronted, she played innocent. "I'm just following protocol," she said sweetly. "If you people have nothing to hide, you shouldn't be worried." That's when the first crack appeared. One of the inspectors quietly told a resident, "These reports are unusually detailed. Whoever filed them knows your schedules, your utilities, your property layouts." In other words, this wasn't HOA enforcement anymore. This was surveillance. And Karen wasn't just controlling the neighborhood, she was studying it. 3 days later, Oak Ridge Heights received an email blast, not from the HOA, from Karen's personal account. Subject line, Oak Ridge internal tracking logs. At first, people thought it was spam. Then they opened the attachment. It was a spreadsheet, dozens of tabs. Every house on the block had a file. Work schedules, visitor patterns, camera blind spots, who left early, who came home late, who traveled on weekends, even notes like House 14, possible tax fraud, home salon. House 22, loud couple, likely undocumented tenant. The neighborhood went silent. Karen had been running a private intelligence system on her own community. She called an emergency HOA meeting that night, claiming she'd been hacked. She stood at the front of the room shaking, saying someone was trying to frame her. Then a teenager in the back raised his hand. "My mom doesn't use social media," he said, "but she showed me how metadata works. That file was created on your laptop at 2:41 a.m. yesterday." The room shifted. Another resident stood up. "That note about my home salon, I only told you that, in confidence." A third voice, "You wrote down my travel dates. I never shared that publicly." Karen stopped talking. Her face didn't look scared anymore. It looked exposed. That's when someone connected the real dots. The anonymous reports to the city, the sudden inspections, the detailed schedules. Karen wasn't enforcing rules. She was weaponizing information. And the worst part, one tab was labeled future actions. It had dates. None of them had happened yet. Like, share, and subscribe if you're enjoying this story, and tell us in the comments where you're watching from. By morning, Oak Ridge Heights wasn't just a neighborhood scandal, it was a town problem. Someone forwarded Karen's spreadsheet to a local journalist. By noon, the headline was everywhere: HOA president accused of running private surveillance network on residents. City Hall called an emergency hearing, not an HOA meeting, a municipal inquiry. Karen arrived in a blazer with her lawyer, still trying to control the narrative. She claimed the files were community safety notes and the city reports were coincidental. Then the town IT officer spoke. He confirmed the email wasn't hacked. The spreadsheet had been auto-backed up to a cloud drive registered to Karen's credit card. And worse, several city complaints were traced to the same IP address. Her house. Karen's lawyer leaned in and whispered something urgent. For the first time, Karen didn't look powerful. She looked small. Then came the twist nobody expected. A quiet woman named Marla, who'd lived on Oak Ridge for 12 years, stood up. She worked in data compliance for a medical firm. Marla projected another file onto the screen. It was Karen's spreadsheet, but annotated. Karen hadn't just tracked people. She'd violated multiple privacy laws, stored personal data without consent, labeled residents with false allegations, triggered government action using knowingly false reports. Marla ended with one sentence: "This isn't HOA misconduct. This is criminal behavior." The room went dead silent. Karen tried to interrupt. The mayor cut her off. "No, Karen, you've spoken enough." For the first time in years, Karen didn't have the floor. She didn't even have control. She had a problem she couldn't HOA her way out of. Karen thought she was going to be fined, maybe forced to resign, maybe banned from the HOA. She was wrong. 2 weeks later, the town filed charges for misuse of public systems, false reporting, and unlawful data collection. The same authorities she'd summoned to terrorize her neighbors were now knocking on her door. Her resignation letter wasn't dramatic, it was one paragraph long. No apology, no explanation. Just, I am stepping down effective immediately. But the town wasn't done. The civil lawsuits came next. 3 families sued for emotional distress. One business owner sued for lost income. The single dad sued for defamation after Karen's undocumented tenant note nearly cost him custody. Karen tried to sell her house. No one wanted it. Not because of the price, because everyone knew whose house it was. Local forums started calling it the surveillance house. Parents warned their kids not to go near it. Delivery drivers left packages at the gate. Even realtors refused the listing after one of them found Karen's name trending on local news. The final humiliation came quietly. Karen showed up to the grocery store she'd shopped at for years. The cashier didn't recognize her. Not because Karen looked different, because she'd changed her name. She stood in line, anonymous, while 2 women behind her whispered, uh, that's the lady who ruined the neighborhood. No, she moved away. The town turned on her. Um, Karen didn't correct them. She just paid, left, and walked out of a town where she used to run everything. Now, completely invisible, not feared, not respected, erased. If this story opened your eyes, like, share, and subscribe, and tell us in the comments where you're watching from.